Hi, thank you for your interest in the ServiceDesk Revenue Builder. If you're involved in or interested in selling service contracts, maintenance agreements, even if you simply have the situation where you know you can generate added revenue by periodically calling customers that need periodic service and reminding them that service is due, scheduling with them, and going and performing the services COD, this system is designed to help you do those processes in a super efficient and effective manner. Right here you see our basic interface consisting of the main form, which can contain several subforms. The primary subform is what we call the party data sheet. The party data sheet, you might notice, does not have a cancellation button because it's always going to be visible here in the background. The party data sheet basically contains information about a particular party. We use the generic term party because obviously you can have at least two different broad categories of parties, those that live at the location where you're servicing and those who are paying for the service who may or may not be the same party. So for any party that's applicable, we simply have what we call a party data sheet. And in fact, in respect to each party data sheet here in the center area, we have the main information that pertains directly to that party. We have the date we created the party data sheet, an ID number, which is probably not something you'll ever need to pay attention to. We have a place here you can specify the type of client. This is a pop-down list, and you can put whatever items in this list you want to. We just tried some different things here for our experimental data, and you can specify that a client is of whatever type you want. Here we have the vital information pertaining to the client. Contact person, if it's a business, like here we'll go to a different record. I'm just scrolling here with my mouse. You can also use page up and page down on your keyboard to move between records. Here's a business, Roberts Property Management, and we see here our contact person there is John Roberts. There's also a space for what's called a salutation. The salutation essentially is the name that would follow the word dear in a letter, as in this case here, Dear Jack. Moving back to this record here we got one for Porky Pig. I'm going to concentrate primarily on this record here. The salutation is Mr. and Mrs. Olson. And right here, you'll notice we've done Olson, Harry and Donna. That's the basically the last name, comma, then first names convention, which is important to use just as it is in ServiceDesk, so that when you want to search on a last name, it's at the front of that field, which makes it practical to search there. Then we have the address, spaces for 3 telephone numbers, email address, notes, and so on. I don't know why we repeated the name right here in notes. I guess I was just messing around. I'll erase that. Down below the vital information for the client, we have payment information as applicable, of course, if it's a party who you expect to pay you money, and particularly if it's a party that you're going to be collecting periodic payments from via credit card. This section is to keep track of the credit card information via which you'll be doing those payments. If you're going to do it via a system of automated check drafts, then this section is for you putting in the applicable checking information. So there in the center area we've got that information. Over here we have methods by which you can search for parties based on contact name, formal name, address, and so on. Also, you can search based on the customer database listing from within ServiceDesk for ServiceDesk listings. Moving on over here to the right, we have, you might call them operative links, aside from the history section down here, which is when you can add notations like you can in ServiceDesk of your own, or the system will put in its own automated entries. Actually, that's a note I had up there. As I was working on this, I could erase that, like so. But most particularly and significantly here, you've got this applicable accounts section. You might notice it says right-click to add new, left-click for existing. Basically, for any particular party, you can attach as many accounts to that party as you want to. An account is basically something that keeps track of things you're supposed to do in respect to that party, whether it be doing billings or doing particular services, and I'll show you right now. You notice we have 2 accounts attached to this party. This first one says billing on GoTo, which means The Olsons are both the billing party and the go-to party on this particular account, which is the number there. And then the type of account is an all-season heating and AC. That's something you'll create. I mean, that's not that's not hardwired into the system. The type of account is what I'm meaning, or types that are available, and the date that was created. I'll click on it here, and it brings up the actual account form as applicable. Again, you see the Olsons are the billing and the go-to party. You see the date the account was created, the account number, and then we have types of accounts. This is another list. You create whatever account types you want to be involved with. This one happens to be all season heating and AC account, the way we've set it up. And there's a history section here. And what's really operative here is we have scheduled billings, scheduled services, and covered machinery. Much as is the case over here, if you want to look at an item, you can left-click on it. If you want to add new items, you can right-click. We'll look at the scheduled billing item here. You notice right on the face it says $225 each year for 15 years was due, and 9/10/2004, which means it's now 88 days past due. I think that, or maybe it says 86. Looks like I may need to extend that space. At any rate, we click on the item. We see the full sheet. Data was created. Again, it's this one's set up for yearly intervals. Every 1 year, we're going to bill $225, and it looks like we've set it up for COD, meaning we'll collect when we go there to perform the service. You got other options here, obviously, credit card, auto check drafts, mail billing, and so on. This one's set up for 15 cycles, and then it expires. Looks like we've already completed one cycle, so we have 14 remaining. An option would be you could set it up so that it just repeats forever until someone decides to cancel it. Actually, we'll just leave it at that now, and you can see that changes the information here. You can add as many scheduled billings as you want, and then you have scheduled services. We have one scheduled service on this item, which is check and clean filters next due to 1505. We can look at the details on that. Oh, this is set up for a month to happen every 2 months, because we're monthly intervals and times 2. We have the next due date. This one's set up forever until canceled, etc. We could create, by right-clicking, we could create new plan services here, no problem, and so on and etc. And down here we have covered machinery. We can click on any of these items and see the details about the machine that we're covering under this account. You might notice these look very much like unit info sheets from ServiceDesk. In fact, these refer to exactly the same database as your unit info sheets do in ServiceDesk. So any unit info sheets you see from here are also visible from within ServiceDesk, and vice versa. In fact, we'll shortly be making some revisions within ServiceDesk that will make it so that when you look at a unit info sheet in ServiceDesk that is covered here under an account, it will show on the face of that unit info sheet that that machine is covered by an account in the system. Okay, so these are the links that this account links to in terms of billing services and covered machinery. One thing I should mention here is you should conceptually think of each of these accounts as being sort of like the hub in a wheel with spokes that radiate outward. Specifically, the account has spokes that radiate upward or homeward, you might say, toward the party data sheets that they connect to. Now this one connects to the, both in terms of its billing and location, connects to the same party data sheet, but I could move to a different account here like this one. This one has a spoke that radiates toward John Roberts as the billing party and toward Porky Pig and Family as the go-to party. And again, scheduled billing, scheduled services, and covered machinery. On the other hand, your accounts have spokes that radiate downward or outward towards scheduled billing items, scheduled service items, and the machinery that they're covered towards. So again, conceptually think of accounts kind of as being the hub on that wheel with the spokes that go out to the party data sheets, to the billing items, service items, and covered machinery. You might notice we've got another history section over here. Anytime you add a billing item or delete it, service item or delete it, the system will make notes in the history here for you. Let's see if I can find any that's happened on since I made that feature start working as I've been building here. I can take out those notes, and yes, indeed, here's some notes reflecting create a plan service item, blah blah, create a plan service item, remove plan service item, and so on. So you get that history there. And then you might notice the two buttons we got right here, View Billing Events, View Service Events. I click on this, and it shows me the billing events applicable to this account. I can see on this date I mailed out a billing, on this date I received a payment, and so on. All the details. Similarly with services, I can see that I made a call sheet request for this kind of service on this date, and on this date we completed that service. Speaking of which, I'll show you more about that in a second, but basically when you want to request service from this system to ServiceDesk, what it does, as you'll see in more detail in a moment, is it sends a call sheet to ServiceDesk saying please perform service on this account of this type, and then in ServiceDesk you manage the service from that point onward. Incidentally, in any of these forms that can be closed, you can either click on the X to close it, or you can hit escape, much like you can in ServiceDesk. Okay, so that's the basic party data sheet and accounts form and how they interact with each other. Now I want to move my concentration up here and show you what some of these features are right up here that have kind of a more general application to the system. First of all, you have a button to create a new party via keyboard entry. Click on that. You got a bunch of empty spaces here. I wanted to go ahead and just show you here how we can do this. I'm going to skip past contact person, and I'm going to pretend like I'm creating a party data sheet for myself. Pretend like I'm a retail customer here. And put in my information. House Road, Shelton, Washington 98584. I'm only going to bother with a single telephone number. And I'm going to skip my email address. I'm going to skip any notes. And looks like that filled in when it shouldn't have. I maybe need to finesse that in my programming. And I think I've got everything filled in there that I need to. Now I want to create an account. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend that I'm, say, a tenant, or otherwise I'm not the one paying for service and someone else is. I'm going to right click over here to create an account, and I'm the location party, so I'll take this option, and you'll notice that plugged my information into here, and now it's left the information up here blank to fill in the billing info. I could type it in here if it was something new that wasn't already in the system, but in fact I'm going to pick somebody who already is in the listing. I'm going to pick Robert's Property Management here, pretending like they're the paying party. I just double clicked on it, inserted all their information here. So I've got the billing info set up, I've got the location info set up, and I've got an account. Well, let's see, let's select a type of account. We'll say it's all season heating and AC. Again, you customize that list, putting in whatever you want to in there. And I've got a basic account done, except I need to create scheduled billing. Let's say this is going to be billing that's done every 25 days, and it's going to be done for $50, and the method of payment is credit card, and it's next due on 1/5/05, and it's going to repeat forever until canceled. And I've got my billing item set up. Let's set up a type of scheduled service. Let's say it's miscellaneous, and interval type is we're billing every 25 days, did I say? Well, let's say we're doing the service every week or every 2 weeks. You know, you can just do whatever you want to here, and that's next due on 12/31/04, and that goes forever until canceled. That's set up. And then I can go to my types of machinery. I can say find an existing entry. Let's search by serial number, and I like the serial number right there. Say that's the machine I'm interested in, and connect it to the account, and that's done. And I've got a basic account set up. By the way, the system does not demand that you list your covered machinery here. That's just just for your assistance, assuming that in fact it's helpful to you. So I've got a new party data sheet, I've got a new account, and in fact under this account I'm only the go-to. That's account number 958. You might notice we go over here to Robert's Property Management, and there's account number 958 as a billing account for him. That one account, again, a hub with spokes that radiate toward this account and toward this account, and of course with spokes that radiate in the opposite direction toward the scheduled billing, scheduled services, and to covered machinery. Again, the account ties the things together. You know, I'm going to backtrack here because I left something out. In the party data sheet, I wanted to mention a couple more things here. The billings due section will show you any billings that are actually due as applicable to any account that's listed for that party. The services due section will show you, list any services that are due as applicable to any account for that party. If we go over here for Robert's Property Management, for example, where we set up a number of accounts, we got 2 billings that are actually due out of however many billings are set up for each of those accounts. Doesn't look like they have any services due. Do we have any with services to do? I'm sure we do. Yeah, there's one right there on this account for Donald Duck. Okay, going onward here, we just created an account via keyboard entry. You can also create one via insertion from ServiceDesk, or rather I should say you will be able to when I make that functional, which I haven't quite done yet. You have this option here, which is pretty important, view parties in table format. Actually, we already looked at this in the context of creating an account and inserting from the list. Insert something here, but I want to point this out to you more particularly now. Over here, well, let me go back to there. Over here, we're looking at each of our parties in full page format. Each party takes a particular page. Here, we can look at our parties in list format. And the format here is exactly the same as in Outlook Express or Windows Explorer in that you have columns of data, and you can stretch or shrink those columns. You can move the columns around like so. Most importantly, you can sort on any column simply by clicking on it. You notice here we're not alphabetized or anything. Watch, I'll click on it, all of a sudden, oh, it's reverse alphabetized. I'll click on it again, and it's forward alphabetized. I can sort by the address. I can sort by the city. I can sort by the telephone number. And again, if you click the second time, it simply reverses the sequence of alphabetization. Click on the date acquired, and so on, which makes it so you can organize your data for whatever purpose that you're seeking to fulfill at any moment in time super easily. It works real well. Also, you can, when you have an interest in multiple items, you can select the multiple items. You notice I get a summary down here, 5 items selected, average time in system 26 days. For any, we actually have a number of forms that are done this way in the system, and for any one of them, you can use this multiple selection feature. Incidentally, if you don't know the commands to do multiple selections, if you want to select all the items in a list, hit Control-A on your keyboard. That selects all the items. If you want to select a set of items that include and are between 2 items, click on the first, do a shift click on the second, like so. I'm hitting escape, by the way, to get rid of my selections. If you simply want to select a sequence of items that are not in sequence, or I mean a set of items that are not in sequence, click on the first, do a control click on each added one that you want to include in the selection. That's simple. That's the basic convention in any Windows format for selecting multiple items from a list. Okay. So that's your basic parties list in list format as opposed to being in one item per page format that you see here. We next have a function here to edit the list boxes. You've seen where we have several different list boxes for different purposes. Each of them can be accessed from here, and you can edit the contents of any of them. For example, these are the client types I've set up for the experimental data. You can set up whatever client types you want. You can set up whatever account types you want. You can set up whatever service types you want and machine types and so on and etc. You can delete items from the list. You can add them to the list. You can change the text of existing items. Just follow the prompts. It's very simple. Okay, now we move to this area right here, which deals with real, goodness to honest operations, doing the things that need to be done, doing the work. First box here is Manage Billings Due. You might remember on any particular account we have scheduled billings. If you click on Manage Billings Due, all the billing setups for all of your accounts will show here in list format. Again, it's that same thing, the tab things. You can sort by clicking on any particular column, etc. you have several options down here to limit what you're seeing. Right now we're seeing all items in terms of dates due, and we're seeing all items in terms of whether they're set up for mail payment, auto check draft, or credit card charges. I can limit that down to say items that are only due within 30 days. And I can limit it to items that are only presently due. I can limit it to only items that are going to be paid via mailed payment. Change that back to within 30 days. Actually, why don't we say 60 days? Now let's say it comes to the, I've decided that this is the day of the week or the time in the month or whatever that I want to send out bills. I'll probably pick a particular time range within which items come due, select the items from that time range. I could just hit Control A on my keyboard to select both of those. And then I want to export the items selected. Basically, I'm going to export them to a file because I want to use that file to use with a merged document facility, probably in Word or WordPerfect, to send out my bills. This is not presently set up to do your bills directly. Basically, it creates the data that you then use in a form letter or merged document facility to create your bills in whatever format you want. And then after I've sent out those particular bills, I want to check off completion of the billing tasks. So I clicked on check off completion, and I'll indicate that I want to check off the sending out of bills. When I do that, the system will make a record that in fact I sent out the bills, and that will then become part of the history that this system keeps track of for you. When in fact I receive payment later on, I'll select whatever items I've received payment on. I'll again go to check off completion, and then I'll select this check off receiving payment option here, and that then documents and keeps track of the funds that I've received, checks off the fact that I received the funds, and on the scheduled billing items, it will notch the next due date forward by whatever the interval type and quantity is set up here. So that's sort of how that works. And let's look at the Manage Services Due function, which is basically exactly the same thing, at least almost. You have the basic form here that shows all your items. You can make your more specific selections down here for what displays. You can select the items that you want to involve in a current action. You can export items selected, and what that does basically is, in the case we checked with on mailed billings, of course, it was going to create a file that we then use in a merged document facility to create our actual bills. So one thing I didn't mention to you, if it's credit card payments that you're dealing with, it's also going to create a file when you select items, and actually select items and export them. But in this case, the file that you select, rather than being used in a merged document facility for the purpose of creating bills, is going to be used with your your credit card processing software to run those credit card transactions for you. Or if you're set up for automated check processing, it will be exported to a check processing program to run those automated checks. Here, the process, when we select items and export, it's going to, it's giving me a warning here. I need to have set up some initials that I haven't done. So anyway, it's going to actually create call sheets within ServiceDesk for each item that's scheduled for service and needs to be serviced. And the call sheet's going to have all the pertinent information and say, please get me scheduled for the service that the RevenueBuilder is requesting is due. And so then you manage the service from within ServiceDesk. When it's completed, you'll go back to here, and you'll select the items that's been completed on. Oh, again, still got that impediment there, just because I don't have this quite set up right. And you'll check off that that the service has been done. It will keep a record of that, and it will go to the applicable records here, and it will notch the next due date forward appropriately for the fact that the service has been done. Okay, so that's how you manage the actual work. And then you have a history. When you do all those things, it compiles a history of when you sent out bills, when you received payment, when you processed credit cards, and so on in regard to billing actions. In regard to services history, it keeps a record of when you made call sheet requests and when you actually completed service on each item. These histories, by the way, that we're looking at for both billing and services here, you might compare to the histories that you look at here under any particular account. The forms are similar, you'll notice. This form and this form are similar. In fact, they show you essentially the same information. I guess I didn't have any history on that particular job. They show you essentially the information. The difference being that if you select from here, and let me get over there. It's only going to show you the history as applicable to this account. Whereas if you select from here, it shows you the whole billing history for your whole system. And same thing here with the distinction between the general system-wide service history here and the service history is applicable to a particular account here. Okay, so that's really the basic system. We have our little about form there that tells you your version number and so on. Still have a tiny bit more work to do there. That's the basic system. One other element of it I'll mention is when you we haven't quite done it yet, but we'll soon have ServiceDesk modified so that the customer database display in ServiceDesk, besides including references to current jobs, archive jobs, red flag customers and so forth, will also contain references to this system. So when you're in ServiceDesk and typing in a name, address, or telephone number for which there is a party data sheet in this Revenue Builder system pertaining, you'll see a list of reference to this coming up too, so you'll know that and be aware of it from within ServiceDesk. That's basically the system. I hope if you've bought it, you'll enjoy it immensely, or if you're considering purchase of the system, I hope you will. Thank you very much.